Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my fireside in London in the UK. And I have to say, it's a sad and humbled beard that you see in front of you. First off, the housekeeping, I'm smoking, not even smoking, but smoking my Bayard. And in it I've got a new tobacco that I picked up after having seen Pip from Pip's Pipery Practices recommend it. It's an aromatic by Century, and it's Colombian coffee, and I have to say it's really very nice indeed. And with it I'd hoped to be feasting on the bitter tears of our vanquished foes on the field of rugby, the Irish. And so was going to be down in some Liffey water. Guinness, of course, their national drink. But anyone that's watched the match will know that they won, depriving us of the Grand Slam in the Six Nations Rugby Union Championship. It was a gruelling match and they were worthy winners, they really were. They deprived England of any chance to do anything whatsoever. Fantastic stuff. I felt tired just watching it. So instead of feasting on their tears, I'm tasting the bitter tears of regret that we weren't able to do it. We still won the tournament as a whole, the Six Nations tournament as a whole. But the Grand Slam is when you win absolutely every game that you play against Wales, Scotland, Italy, France, Ireland, which in our case that's what it would have been. So here's to the Irish. Well done. They really did stick it to the English and shut them down and played like champions. So well done to them. And well done to the English as well, because they've had a fantastic run of games. So there we go. Bittersweet. But, England have got nothing to be ashamed of. They did well throughout the tournament. I don't even know how much rugby is played in schools in this country anymore. No idea. I mean, you don't tend to think of it as being that common a sport. When I first went to secondary school, back in 1967, it was down south. And there, we never played rugby. We played football. Soccer, as you'd call it in the States. But then about halfway or 3/4 of the way through my first year at school, my parents' marriage was on the rocks. And they decided to have an attempt at mending it, and one way of doing so, because my mother suspected my father of playing away from home, was to up sticks and move. And he was a fairly successful man. He came from very humble background, a very large working class London family, and he'd made good and risen to quite a high point in his the firm he worked for, which was an Anglo-Swedish firm. And he gave it up in order to try and save the marriage. And we were uprooted and moved lock, stock and barrel about 40 miles north of London up to Bedfordshire. Up to a small village where my dad bought a pub. And was to become the landlord of that pub. Probably not the best of ideas. My dad had been a hard drinker all his adult life, so becoming the landlord of a pub was a bit like putting the fox in charge of the hen house. And over the next couple of years, his hard drinking was to blossom into full-blown alcoholism. Hardly surprising with so much temptation on hand. I mean, you're in a pub, you can get up in the morning and it's all there, in your house as it were. And it was a wasted effort as it turned out, because their marriage, it only deferred the inevitable. Their marriage broke up 2 years later and my mum walked out and left us. But the reason I'm talking about this is because having come from a school that played football, my sister and I, as I say, were uprooted. We had to leave all our friends behind, and we went to this school in this small town in Bedfordshire, and it was a school that had sort of pretensions to be like a traditional old British school. And so football or soccer was considered to be a bit below the salt, you know, not really the thing for young gentlemen. And we played cricket in the summer, and in the autumn, winter and spring we played hockey and rugby. And I hated it. I was never really good at it. And the focus, understandably, was all on those that were good at it, because they were the ones that took part in tournaments and won the cups for the school. And I can still remember we'd go out in the middle of winter, say on a January morning, onto the pitch that had been churned up by hundreds of studs before. Studs in the boot stud sense, not the masculine sense. And yeah, been churned up by boot studs, and then overnight in the January winter had frozen solid, so it was like ridged concrete. And I don't know what was worse, whether it was when we were refereed by the games master, because he was a real stickler for the rules, and in those days certainly, and probably, you know, it still applies now. The idea in rugby is you tackle around the legs, so if someone's running towards you from the other side with the ball, you launch yourself at their legs and grab them around the knees and bring them down. I can still remember throwing myself onto that rock hard ground, and we were only wearing thin cotton shorts and a cotton top. It was unbelievably painful. So I don't know whether that was worse, having him as the referee, or what happened most of the time, seeing as we were like the rejects. We'd have another teacher, a geography teacher or history teacher, who would don a tracksuit and whistle and try and keep control of the chaos. And when that happened, it was every boy for himself. Because these people didn't really know the rules. And being teenage boys, we had a fair measure, especially in the B team, the reject team, of teenage psychopaths with far too much testosterone. And they saw a game of rugby as an opportunity to really get stuck in. And they weren't interested in tackling around the legs. Why throw yourself at an opponent's legs and run the risk of getting a boot in the teeth when it's far easier, if they're running past you with the ball, to stick your arm out and hook them around the neck, throw them onto the ground, and if the teacher was far enough away and couldn't see, then they'd stick the boot in as well for good measure. I hated it. It's amazing nobody was killed or seriously injured. It was just anarchy. And I blame that school for the fact that throughout my whole life thereafter, I hated playing team sports. I watched them, but playing them, no. That really, really set the seal on it for me. There wasn't much honour or nobility in it, that's for sure. It was survival of the fittest. But that said, you know, it's all part of life's rich pageant. So once again, here's to the Irish. Look at that. There's nothing like a pint of Guinness. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. There's nothing like, look, I mean, any other beer, fine, but when you look at a pint of Guinness, wow. Black gold. So cheers everyone.